Dear teachers and educators, welcome to the webinar 3 of the NEP 2020 series leading to Teachathon 2021 that is scheduled to happen on September 17th, 18th and 19th. The theme of the Teachathon 2021 is NEP 2020 and these webinars also focus on the same theme. Today's webinar elaborates on the multidisciplinary learning, one of the key areas of NEP 2020. Multidisciplinary learning as a concept has been around for a while. However, with NEP placing emphasis on this, there is a renewed interest on this concept from all educators. Helping us take this concept from an idea phase to the implementation level is Dr. Azra Begum, who will share her insights and ideas on the same. Before Dr. Azra Begum takes the floor, let me share a brief profile about her. She is an international educator with over 25 plus years of experience in IB and Cambridge international curricula. Having started her career as a teacher, she has played multiple roles in both academic and administrator areas, from head of department, exam administrator, and IB DP coordinator, along with being head of academics, vice principal, and principals of leading schools. Her key achievements include introducing innovative programs and practices for the holistic development of students, promoting inclusive educational systems, implementing global best practices in teaching and learning, as well as reviewing quality assurance, authorization, and accreditation. She is well versed in integrating fresh and globally relevant perspectives and approaches to foster holistic and multidisciplinary teaching and learning. We are glad to have you here today as a speaker for this webinar, ma'am. We look forward to an engaging session. Over to you, Dr. Azra Begum.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lata. Lovely words. I hope I live up to your expectations and everybody's expectation. Anyway, good evening, fellow educators. All of us are in the same profession, in different roles, different levels, but the basic thing is what? We are educators, and we're all involved in school, teaching and learning. And it's so important, this formative years. Just before we started off, I was just telling Ms. Sumati and Ms. Lata how important school education is. Why is it important? So just a modest attempt that where I have, Ms. Sumati asked me if I could share my thoughts and experience. Very nice of her. So whatever little experience that I do have, I would love to share it with you all, because knowledge is not knowledge if we don't share it. This is what Plato, in a small gist, I'm telling you, unless knowledge is communicated, it can't be knowledge, said Plato. And I very strongly believe in it, that we all should share whatever we learn, whatever experiences we have as educators and teachers. Did somebody say anything?
No, Asha, you can continue. It was recording.
Can I continue?
Yeah, please continue.
Yeah. Okay. The National Educational Policy, it was published in 2020. Unfortunately, there has been a gap for unforeseen circumstances, but nonetheless, it's a wonderful, revolutionary, visionary, futuristic document on education for us. It talks about a comprehensive framework for elementary and higher education, as well as vocational training in the rural and urban India, which we should keep this in mind. Now, it is a very broad landscape where the entire education system is planned to be revolutionized by 2030, a good decade, 10 years. In today's discussion, we will narrow down our scope and understanding to just the implementation of NEP in schools alone. Now, let us start understanding the vision behind NEP. Can we take on to the next slide, please, Lata? Look at the vision of NEP. Just see what it says. National Education Policy 2020 envisions an India-centric education system that contributes directly to transforming our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. Absolutely wonderful vision. This entails that the aim of education, and this is what it is, the aim of education will not only be cognitive development, but also building character and creating holistic and well-rounded individuals equipped with the key 21st century skills. You tell me, which teacher, which educator, which parent does not want a well-rounded education system? All of us aspire and want it. And in our own small ways, we are doing it, every school. So clearly, the NEP 2020 has a very futuristic perspective, and the one where Indian student can expect to acquire the knowledge, skills, and attributes which will be globally valid and at par with the advances in the world. Very, very important. But before we start discussing the details of the journey from point A to point B, let's quickly check where we are at the present moment. I haven't come to this slide. Just go back to that. What is point A? At the current education scenario, what I want you fellow educators to pitch in here with me. Anybody, what do you think is the current education scenario like now? Anybody? Anybody? In your own words, please feel free. There's no answer which is right or wrong.
Rote learning is going on now, ma'am.
Pardon?
Rote learning. By getting the answers that like that is going on.
Okay. Anybody else?
We focus on the whole development, ma'am. On the whole development of a child.
The present scenario.
Yes, ma'am, present scenario. We do work towards that.
When I said the education system, I was talking about what is present in India now. Yes, individuals and individual schools are doing the very best, but that's what I wanted to know. Any other answers?
Ma'am, yeah, holistic development of the child, children, holistic curriculum based, where it is the holistically, the children are developed not only based on studies, but also through activities and the other things.
Okay.
Because nowadays the curriculum are set in that way that we look into the holistic development. It's not now, it's from near 5-10 years also, ma'am. It is about the activity-based learning to be encouraged, and curriculums are set in that way. The projects, assignments are given in the class, presentations are given, so that the children not only learn from the textbook, but also do certain researches or search certain things they present to the class. So I think, ma'am, it's activity and holistic development of the child is children is being considered in the education system, because project is a way that have been introduced long time back in the education system that encourages children to do outside book studies and to read more different books and do researches and the other things.
Yeah, so absolutely wonderful. I'm glad that your school is doing that. Okay, let's move ahead now. Ms. Lata, the next slide. Okay, I want you to read this Calvin and Hobbes cartoon. Please do it and just relate. And the second, what Calvin says, what is the aspiration and what is the desire of a student? Am I getting the skills It'll need, just see that, it'll need to effectively compete in a tough global economy. I want a high-paying job when I get out of here. I want opportunity. So precise, so clear, it tells why school education is important. And this is what I'm saying. Are we doing this? Is our curriculums doing this? Are we preparing our students to compete effectively in this tough global economy? Are we preparing them to get a high-paying job and to get all the opportunities that is there, national as well as international? Now, let me take you through another important, I don't know how many of you are very familiar with the engineering courses in Bangalore. I'm sure you know the board that is VTU. You all know that, and some of you are familiar, the higher education VTU. I quite related because, very recently, a couple of years back, my son graduated from one of the very prestigious colleges in PES. Okay, and he was very fascinated by machines and so on, being an NPS alumni and then going into PS. He wanted to pursue his passion in mechanical engineering. Took up mechanical engineering, graduated from there, and PS definitely has a wonderful placement. But then the placements for mechanical engineers was not as effective and as high paying as you can talk about computer science. Now you must be wondering why. And recently, just this year, 2020-21, lot of universities, both autonomous as well as engineering colleges, have approached VTU. And what have they said? Can you, because only not even 50% of engineering seats were occupied or fulfilled. The reason being, they did not get, opportunities to get good paying jobs, or they were not getting jobs in what they have learned. So these universities and colleges have approached VTU saying, please remove mechanical engineering from the engineering courses, or, make the seats less. Or another big, suggestion was make it multidisciplinary. And that's when, we do have mechatronics. I hope you all know, you will be aware that a new engineering course called mechatronics. Now, what is it? It's mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, robotics, computer science, all this. Now, why is that, mechanical engineering students are unable to find? The reason is the big study was done that the syllabus was outdated. 10, 15 years, it's been outdated. You're not teaching what is relevant in the present 21st century and relevant for what the industrial demand is. We are not equipping them with the skills that is needed in the present times. Now, I just went into a diversion, but I thought it will be a good course, study, a case study where you will understand why, there are big talks about mechanical engineering being dropped and merging it with other disciplines. Now, moving on to the next slide. I'll come to it, as and when I'll give you examples. Now, look at this, what NEP says, quote unquote. NEP 2020 quotes that education must build character, enable leaders to be ethical, rational, compassionate, and caring, while at the same time prepare them for gainful, fulfilling employment. So well said, NEP is saying. So very important. So ultimate goal of an education is what for our youth? Gainful, fulfilling employment. So now you can conclude that the ultimate outcome expected from educating all students is to have them gainfully employed. In other words, education should equal employment. But did you know the statistics tells us that only 45.9% of our youth are considered as highly employable. According to the 8th edition of India Skills Report, ISR, released in February this year, not even half of our Indian graduates are employable. The report states in 2021, only 45.9% of our graduates are found employable, a decline from 46.21% in 2020 and 47.38% in 2019. Now, if the ultimate outcome of education provided to students is to ensure that they get gainful employability, then clearly our current education scenario is not sufficient to fulfill the expected learning outcomes. If education is not equal to employability, then what is the solution? The first step is to finding the solution is to understand why education is not equal to employability. The ISR report 2021 states that this is because there is a huge gap in professional skills. Please note that. The existence of these gaps is resounded in the National Education Policy. It states, quote unquote again, the gap between the current state of learning outcomes and what is required must be bridged through undertaking major reforms that bring the highest quality, equity, and integrity into the system, from early child care and education through higher education. Please note that they're very clear that it should start early as your pre-primary and take it through higher education. Now, global practices dictate 3 approaches that can help us undertake and implement these reforms. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Now, take some time. Let us, look at the slide carefully and discuss. Let's take a look at these approaches. Multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary approach. Multidisciplinary approach, what is it? It is defined as the approach involving studying a topic from the perspective of more than one discipline and solving a problem using different skill sets. I'll give you an example. The requirement, which is the necessity of today's global world, is of reducing CO2 emission from a vehicle. This study includes a study of fuel chemistry as well as engineering improvement of car engine performance and electrical engineering or electronics. Why? Because the solution which has been decided by these scientists, researchers, global scholars is linkage to electrical cars. Electric cars have become the order of the day. Automobile engineering, automobile industry now is looking at where we can get electric cars. Our very own country has Reva, and I think Nexa has brought in a SUV which is electric. Look at interdisciplinary approach. It is understanding of theories that cut across disciplines and highlight the processes and meaning rather than combining different disciplines. A classic example. Let's take designing of medical equipment, which requires engineering skills and knowledge of the human anatomy as well as functions of the different organs. Look at the hospitals. Yes, we have biomedical engineering. Look at all the gadgets that investigate the diseases and the problems that the human anatomy has. Look at the interdisciplinary approach there. And for your information, there is a big proposal by the IITs where they are saying that there should be a sort of an internship course where engineers go to medical colleges for a short tenure, and the medical students come in to IITs for a short tenure to understand. They say by this, both these disciplines will understand the requirement, necessity, and what it is that they can, achieve and come out with a brilliant solution. And it is in the offing. I think very soon we are, IIT and medical colleges are going to start this interdisciplinary approach. Transdisciplinary approach. What is this? This approach integrates all disciplines together to construct new context of real world themes. Learning transcends the traditional subject areas. I did give you an example earlier of mechatronics. Now, this is known as also new robotics course. It is a new stream in engineering, very, very popular in the Western world, wherein mechanical engineering is studied together with computer engineering, electronic engineering, and see the outcome. What is the world coming to? AI in medicine, in engineering, in day-to-day life. Now, all the three of these approaches are not mutually exclusive, remember this, but progressive. Multidisciplinary engagements are the starting points, where several seemingly unconnected disciplines are taught to the cohort of students. The next level is interdisciplinary education, where the disciplines are blended together to form a new approach. The transdisciplinary goes a step beyond, where the method of one discipline is used to understand the problem in another discipline. So let's see why we are discussing the multidisciplinary learning today. Can we have the next slide, please? The term multidisciplinary has been mentioned 70 times in the document of NEP 2020. Why is the term being emphasized so much? According to records, and Ms. Lata just mentioned a little earlier, multidisciplinary is not a new terminology or new approach. This multidisciplinary thinking flourished in ancient Indian universities like Nalanda and Takshashila and Mithila. I can go on naming some of the world's best ancient universities. It existed there. Multidisciplinary approach fosters creativity and thirst for interdisciplinary engagements. So very important, the approach for creativity. It introduces multiple disciplines from an early age. This eventually inculcates in the students diverse ways of thinking and provides them awareness of the crucial methodologies for effective implementation of the knowledge that they gain and understand. It also sensitizes learners towards problems, issues, concepts that lie outside their specialized domain. This essentially prepares students to be able to relate their learning in the real world context. Literally applying what they learn to the real world context. It also develops problem solving and leadership potential. Very, very essential life skills that are preferred by all employers. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Global universities and higher education, research is unequivocal about the need of multidisciplinary education. Let's take a look at what NEP means by the mention of the term multidisciplinary. What does it say? Engage students' mind, body, and spirit. Not just a system of mindless regurgitation of information, but education in the true sense. One of the teachers did mention that he was very unhappy about rote learning. How very true. And that's what it says, information. It's not a rigor that we are looking for, but information of education in the true sense. Develop learners' emotions, creativity, and imagination, not just the development of knowledge base. Impart learning by experiencing and not just reading. Emphasis on, what does it say? It emphasizes on experiential learning that is more effective and is retained for life, where you become a lifelong learner through experiential learning. Focus is on not just what is to be learned, but how the learning is happening. Create effective educational experience. What does that mean? We have to make sure that the students are equipped to use what they have learned in the real world scenario. Equal emphasis on learners' intellectual, emotional, social, cognitive well-being, well-rounded learning, not just development of the brain. In the beginning of the presentation, I did say and talk about holistic education, and I think somebody, one of the teachers did mention that they follow a holistic, well-rounded education where it is just not books, but also activities. So when you say activities and also basic knowledge, content knowledge, we also should include emotional, social, cognitive well-being, which is well-rounded. Very, very important in today's world. Next slide, please. Is this slide 7? Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, yes, correct. Because, okay. Now, what does NEP state? I'm on and off taking what NEP is giving us directives, telling us what their perception of what they vision for India. Obviously the NEP is written also by fellow educators, and this is what they want. So I'm taking, all the quotes from there and trying to understand what they want us to do. The NEP states that the focus will be to have less emphasis on input and greater emphasis on output potential concerning desired learning outcomes. Very, very important learning outcomes. No matter what you teach, how you teach, your pedagogy, your approach, your curriculum, whatever, the learning outcomes. So what are the learning outcomes that are expected from this approach? What does this approach offer that is different? Just look at the slide and just take in the learning outcomes. I'm sure many of you are familiar, many of you are practicing it. It's already existing in a formal, informal way. But NEP also wants this important transferable skills which are continually developing at all stages of life, from early years to higher education. Critical thinking, We want all our students, all our youth to come out with these learning outcomes. Be critical thinkers, learn the art of self-management, adapt to situations, analysis and problem solving, very, very important, because at every step in their lives, whether personal or professional, there will be issues where you need to analyze and come out with solutions, not dwell and give up that there is a problem and it's over. No. Research methodologies, very important skill. Absolutely. Collaboration and teamwork. This skill, I would say, is very, very important. If you need to be successful, you need to collaborate, work together, be a team player, because no individual is a Robinson Crusoe. You have to achieve you get your success or you get your solutions, you achieve what you want in a collaborative team work. Communication. I'm sure you all will agree. It is the most important skill. Conveying and interpreting conversations, verbal, written, non-verbal, how very important an outcome. Astute application of technology. We are living in a world of technology. You and me as teachers would have never dreamt in our wildest dream that a day will come that we will use technology to impart knowledge to our students. Did you ever think that you will be teaching online? No. So you see, technology is the order of the day. Did you ever believe that, you would be doing online consultation? Doctors never dreamt that they would be doing. We never thought that AI will be helping us to do a lot of analysis. And in this world of technology, another important learning outcome, compassion. We all need to be compassionate individuals. Very important. And synthesis of ideas. We have to. There's so many ideas. Why do you think we have so many startups? And in fact, I would say very proudly that Bangalore has been one place, a hub where all the startups are giving a lot of encouragement. Beautiful startup. And I think we need to know the empowerment of women has taken such a strong, I should say, path in startups, that we have a lot of women entrepreneurs who have done this startup. And how has this happened? It's because of the synthesis of ideas. One of the reasons that it's happened. These are the important skills that can bridge the gap in professional skills. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Now take a look at the overall advantages of multidisciplinary approach. What are the advantages? Experiential learning, holistic learning, all very familiar terms. Absolutely cliched, very, very familiar. We all know what is experiential. We all desire, all my fellow educators did say, somebody say that, holistic, integrated learning. Somebody says we play-based activities, we integrate music. We are doing inquiry-driven. This is where our research methodology, curiosity, creativity, all comes in, right? Inquiry-driven. And we don't want, like our gentleman out here, teacher said that no rote learning. Yes, we all believe in that. It should be inquiry-driven. Discovery-oriented, all interrelated. Learner-centered, right? That is why we have a new name for teachers, right? They call us as facilitators and not as teachers. Why are we known as facilitators? These are the reasons where, learning is now learner-centric, research-based. Somebody said that, okay, we give them projects, we give them this, we give them, a lot of, why? Why are we making them research? Why are we teaching them research methodology or to do research? The knowledge that is, at the click of a button. We are enmassed with knowledge, whether it's digital libraries, whether it is Google, whether it is, physical libraries. Look at the knowledge that is at the click of a button. So all that research and discussion based. We need to discuss, debate, deliberate. That's when you get creative ideas. You discover, learners become inventors. Those inventors, become what? Become startup companies, CEOs, you name it, it happens. But at the same time, the other advantage is flexible. You have to be flexible. Why flexible? Because if you are not, synthesis of ideas don't take place, right? You can't be multidisciplinary. You need an array of different thoughts, different knowledge to come out with a unique idea. And most importantly, at the same time, enjoyable. Very, very important. You don't enjoy learning, you're not going to learn anything. I'm sure in our experience as a teacher, we have witnessed at different points in our different classes, a student who doesn't like coming to school, doesn't enjoy class or that particular subject, never learns. Absolute mental block. Absolute mental block. I'm sure all of us know that. I mean, I don't even have to explain it. Now, this is a great way to fulfill the requirements stated in NEP. Again, it is stated in NEP. A good education institution is one in which every student feels welcomed and cared for, where a safe and stimulating learning environment exists, where a wide range of learning experiences are offered, and where good physical infrastructure and appropriate resources conducive to learning are available to all students. Attaining these qualities must be the goal of every educational institution. So precise and clear, they have given instructions. And as educators, as parents, what is more important than giving this? And let me tell you, in this 21st century, all educational institutions cater to this, because this is what parents aspire for. This is what parents are looking for in an educational institution. Next slide, please. So now that we know what results are expected from the implementation of the provisions mentioned in NEP 2020, the bigger question is, very important question, how can this implementation be done? Very pertinent. Like I told you, beautiful concept, revolutionary concept, but challenging also. So let's take a look at the way forward for us as educators, as teachers. For the effective implementation of this multidisciplinary approach, we ought to bear in mind the basic requirements. We have to consider the development requirements of different age groups. Very, very important, different age groups, whether it is pre-primary or early years. Like a child steps into a school when it is 2 feet or nothing, 3 years. And when they graduate from a school, they are 18. So we need to keep in mind the development requirements of different age. Now coming to vertical aligning. So very important, the vertical aligned learning across age groups to ensure that the learning provided at every given stage is preparing the learners for the topics to be covered in the next stage. And I'm sure you all agree, very important. What you learn in grade 1 should be a continuity, should be aligned till grade 5. And from grade 5, again, it should be aligned to middle school 6, 7, and 8. And in 8, when they step into 9, 10. And from 10, when they go into 11 and 12. We all believe in that, right? We can't have concepts and learning which are taught in silos. It doesn't work like that. What is the next thing? Fostering life skills at different levels, at different stages. The skills acquired in the previous stages should be retained and built upon. I'm sure you agree with it. When you start teaching them life skills or values of life, of respecting adults, respecting another individual, humanity, culture, or honesty, we don't just teach it in grade 1, 2, and 3 and say that's over and done with and not revisit it continuously, consistently in all the classes. We do it, but at different levels and different focus on different areas of study. I'm sure you all must be doing that. Continuous review, very, very important. To be done not necessarily through pen and paper exam, but the continuous assessment of whether or not the students have understood the lessons through class discussions, quizzes, case studies, etc. You have to, as a teacher, as an educator, constantly review whether learning has taken place. Has the concept been understood by the students? If yes, the strategy has worked. If not, revisit, re-look at the strategy. Or how are we going to, what is the new pedagogy you're going to take about it? And another important part which continuous review is for curriculum review. We have to review curriculum every 5 to 7 years, because there is development research that's going on in different fields of study, and we need to equip ourselves with that new knowledge and also impart that knowledge which is happening around us to our students. Very, very important. NEP has provided recommendations on how this can be done. Let's discuss it in the next slide. I want you to look at it carefully, and that's where I have put an arrow, vertical integration. Now, we all know the age groups that NEP has given us, 3 to 8 years. You all know that, till grade 2 is one group, and from then on. So I'm sure you all know that. I don't want to talk about it. But look at what the way forward will be. For the 3 to 8 years, the first pillar, 5 years of flexible, multi-level play/activity-based learning, inquiry-based learning. Incorporate some light textbooks for more informal but interactive classroom learning. I'm just reading through it so that, when I explain, you will understand. Look at 8 to 11 years. Develop independent learning, collaborative learning, continuous learning for both students and teachers, creating and developing knowledge repository. Look at the skills in 11 to 14. Experiential learning within each subject. Explorations of relations among different subjects. Introduction of more specialized subjects and subject teachers. 14 to 18, multidisciplinary study. Broad and balanced curriculum. Teaching and learning from global perspective. And the most important, skills for university and outside work. Have you seen the culmination when the child steps into school at the age of 3 and graduates at 18. We have to prepare them, teaching and learning from global perspectives, skills for university and outside work. Pedagogy must evolve to make education more experiential, more holistic, more integrated, more inquiry-driven, discovery-oriented, learner-centered, discussion-based, flexible, and most important of all, enjoyable. The curriculum must include basic arts, crafts, humanities, games, sports, and fitness, languages, very important, literature, culture, and values. And all this in addition to science and math. We Indians love science and math. To develop all aspects and capabilities of learners and make education more well-rounded, useful, and fulfilling to the learner. The foundation stage will consist of 5 years of flexible, I'm repeating it again so that we really do understand that yes, to a large extent we are doing. Do we have to do more? Do we have to introduce something new? Play-based activity, learning in the curriculum. The preparatory stage will comprise 3 years of education building on the play, discovery and activity-based pedagogical and curricular style of the foundation stage. At this stage, some light textbooks will also be introduced to introduce aspects of more formal but interactive classroom learning. In fact, we have various publishers who have introduced these concepts in their books. We just have to do some research ourselves, or schools, or management, or educators, scholars, and you will definitely find these books, and a very fulfilling experience you will get in selection of these books. Reading, writing, speaking, physical education, art, languages, science, and mathematics will continue to be an integral part of curriculum at this stage. The middle ages, from ages 11 to 14, 3 years of education will be building on preparatory stage. More detailed learning in the areas of sciences, of course, mathematics, art, social sciences, and humanities. Experiential learning within each subject and explorations of relations among different subjects will be encouraged and must be emphasized. The secondary stage will comprise of 4 years of multidisciplinary study, building on education imparted in the middle stage, but with greater depth, lot of research-based exploration, greater critical thinking, greater attention of life aspirations, and greater flexibility and student choice of subjects. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Yes. I want to share this with you. United Nations Population Fund, that is UNPF, has published these statistics. If this is the statistical prediction, imagine the kind of impact effective education can create for India. I leave you with this thought that if we bring about a change and NEP is implemented, the world that we see in 2050, beginning from 2030, the opportunity that we are going to give our youth, there'll be no looking back. Thank you so much. Now what I will do is we can have some questions. Yes, Ms. Lata, can you, is there?
Yeah, I'm here, ma'am.
So we can open the floor for questions.
Teachers, if you have any questions, you may probably either unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it in the chat box.
Yeah, I think typing it would be better. I mean, we can answer, right?
Dr. Vasanthi, ma'am, Dr. Vasanthi, you have mentioned something like the student is not convinced working hard will help. He's looking for something more. It's a very interesting no, thought. You want to discuss that, Dr. Vasanthi?
No, basically it was my response to the... Can't hear you. Sorry. Dr. Vasanthi, we can't hear you. 1 second. Is my voice audible now?
Yes.
Basically, it was a response to the picture that was put up on the cartoon, where you could find a teacher trying to drive, because I think your lead question was what's happening in schools today. Basically, I think there is a lot of drive on results and result orientation and billboards of results, that our school stands first, national first, so on. So much so that I think the child is basically given a backseat. It's the child's performance that matters more than the child. What they learn. There is a horrible kind of an isolation between the human aspect of the child and the results this robot child is supposed to produce. You see, so somewhere I feel that this kid in that cartoon was not very convinced by what the teacher was trying to tell him. Because somewhere I think today hard work alone does not matter. Yeah, it is important to put in effort, no doubt. But when it comes to progress, I wouldn't even call that result. I would call it progress. I would look at more of working smart, working realistically, accepting oneself, the way they are. I think these are some very important skills that must be given to children, more than a teacher driving results and working, telling children. Precisely why I gave it, the cartoon, because I asked questions. What is the education in today? And very aptly you said it. Parents want results, schools want results. Schools want to publish it to get admissions. Parents wanted to, perhaps share it with their family and friends or get them into IIT. Azra, that's why I shared it, because my school, we have about 10 to 12 children every year entering IIT, just like that. And we have lots of kids entering NEET with state ranks and all in Tamil Nadu. But somewhere when the new children come rushing in for admissions, the first question I ask them is, what brings you here? They say, no, your results are good. And I said, do you think that's a guarantee that you will get those results? Don't get misled by those billboards put up outside. No, everywhere. When parents come in, I had for admissions, when parents, if I could share these thoughts with you, they'll come in for primary grade 1, 2, 3, or 5, and they'll say, do you prepare your students for SAT? And you think my child can go to Cambridge, Ivy League, Harvard? And I'm amazed. The child is hardly, 5, 6, 7 years old, and they want to know whether that our school will place them in Ivy League, Harvard, MIT. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate that as educators, we know, and that's why I did mention that, this approach, very revolutionary change. But this is where it is. All of us have to discuss, debate, deliberate. Yes. Because the design of the curriculum is now important, although NEP has said that they are going to design and give a curriculum. See, it is very, very ambitious project, very ambitious and much needed in India, much needed. I'm sure we all agree, but the implementation is very important. Is the challenge. Is the challenge, and the day we implement it, I'm telling you, look at the percentage of youth in India. The average age of India today is 29 years. When you compare it with Japan, is 47. Really? The next couple of years, if this youth of India is given the right direction, no looking back for India. Absolutely. Absolutely no looking back. It can be done, I think, Azra, provided, the NEP has given a lot of empowerment to schools today, but do we know how to use empowerment? Because empowerment means responsibility. It's not simply that I have freedom. Empowerment is not freedom. It's more of responsibility with that freedom. And that is why the curriculum design, and that's why I insisted on vertical integration. Very important. Because from the background that I come from, we vertically align, even though respective boards give us a curriculum which is at the 11th and 12th or 9th and 10th, we vertically align it downwards. Absolutely. The continuum has to be there. Otherwise and we are very important. I can proudly say that in the schools that I have worked, we have designed curriculum for the middle school 6, 7, and 8 based on that. Wonderful. And see, we cannot work in silos. Primary years can't work in silos. Middle school can't work in silos, neither high school. And neither Montessori schools can work in silos.
Azra,
It is our integrated
life
work.
is not existing in silos, right? Life is not in silos. Life is a holistic life that we all are experiencing.
And many schools I see that, the primary section is different, the section is different, and there's no meeting where the collaborative work happening. Now, the one section doesn't know what's happening in the other sections. They are unaware of the curriculum, unaware of the books that they have. And I think we as
But I wanted to add a note that we need to appreciate Sumati. I'm not trying to highlight this for this webinar, but then somebody like this organization of Sumati is bringing in the fact that teachers have to deliberately work on this. I'm sure this is going to be a way forward, because it's not a question of a competition where you're going to get some kind of prizes. More importantly, it's going to give teachers that valuable exploration of work that Sumati is trying to challenge teachers with. And believe me, it's not going to be easy. I've seen Sumati's design. It's not a cakewalk. It's going to involve a lot of planning, preparation, rehearsal before teachers presented Sumati. And I think these webinars, like what Azra did now, we had Sharada Chandrasekhar doing it. I think all of these would really benefit teachers to prepare properly, orient themselves in case they've missed out somewhere in their own schools. Great way to tap talent, Sumati. Congratulations to you and the team. And Azra, it was really a very, very sharp, clear, precise presentation. Exactly what teachers needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks to
Vasanthi.
you. I think we all have to join our hands together. Because it's not only the challenge for students and management of schools, it's a challenge for teachers where
Absolutely.
they have to unlearn to learn.
Absolutely.
Only then they will be able to, because a teacher also should be willing and open to learn. Don't you agree with me? I mean, very often we don't find that, because the comfort zone that a teacher has would not like to take the risk by, taking that jump. And I think we need to encourage our teachers to do that.
Yes, Azra, maybe sometimes in our anxiety to push things through in the name of innovation or in the name of doing something new, are we taking teachers on board with us, or are we telling everyone, you just got to do this? We've got to see what we are doing as leaders in schools, because if we want somebody to come on board, I think it's important to give that helping hand and pull everyone into that ship with all of us, isn't it?
Yeah. The captain of the ship should be very clear that it can sail only if everybody, helps in the sailing or rows the boat. So it's very, very important. We all have to do together. And that's why I put that collaboration, teamwork, very, very important.
Oh, yes.
There is one question, Dr. Azra and Dr. Vasanthi. It says, from when are we going to implement NEP, and are there any common guidelines for schools, or do schools have to frame it themselves?
I can take it from the CBSE point of view. One important thing we are doing is the schools have been asked to realign a curriculum to meet NEP standards, and a lot of orientation is happening on free sessions and other things through the CBSE. I know because I work with the COEs and I do a lot of programs. In fact, Monday I'm doing one on 21st century skills for teachers. So what happens is that on the one hand, there is this professional development that's needed when new change is coming. Most importantly, we are working on the holistic progress card, because it's been mentioned in the NEP, but what does it mean? How is it going to look like? So I'm on that committee also. Probably within 3 weeks, we're going to release it and work it out with a few schools and experiment with it. And after that, release it to other schools. So CBSE is working on the NEP. And I think they're investing very heavily into teacher professional development. It is happening. And it's going to be slow because schools have to break that tradition willingly. You can't force people to do things. You can suggest and tell them this is done, it must be done. But if people are going to cling on to the past for result, there's little the CBSE can do about that. Schools have to shed that clinging on to results and go into the
not only schools, Vasanthi, because it's also the higher education where the entry or admissions there also change the scenario. But I must acknowledge and appreciate CBSE has done a lot of changes. Absolutely. In fact, I would say they are abreast of what is the gap is. They're trying to bridge it. They're doing a lot of study on international curriculums in the Western world, which are good, and making those changes. Like a classic example I can give is till lately, recently CBSE in math got in different level, base level and other level. Because, otherwise, children who don't have the ability would not have been to do it, but mandatory. And then, learning difficulty. It was only international curriculums which gave access arrangements or support to SEN children, special education need children, to fulfill, besides the NOIs, the real degree, let it be CBSE or IB or IGCSE, that children with learning difficulties can take certain fewer subjects, can sit for the exam, they'll get the support. And CBS done that. It's a landmark change, I would say, even in their teaching. And I recently saw the NCERT books about math. Major change. I like the critical way and application way of mathematics there. And even in English, I saw that there was a change. So all credit. I think CBSE has made a beginning, and it will go a long way. ICSE, of course, is doing it in some similar fashion. The international curriculums, of course, are following this approach, no doubt about it. But the state, I think, bodies have to be a little bit more proactive, I suppose, right? Because NEP is very clear, it is both rural and urban. And we cannot neglect our rural youth and education. Very, very important. So what I feel, if Lata, if I could answer the question, I think the next step which NEP is going to look at, whether we are going to, it's like a national curriculum. If I can give the example, like how UK has a national curriculum. I think they are debating, deliberating whether to get a national curriculum, or we should be suggesting that come out with a national curriculum where that will be a broad base, and from there, schools who are at a higher end in metros or otherwise can have an enrichment to that national curriculum. What do you say, Vasanthi? I think we need to.
I think you're right. There is a move actually, Azra.
Very important. There is a move. And it's very important because see, everybody cannot design and write a curriculum and pedagogies. They are specialized people, and a lot of research thought has to go, because it has to be age appropriate skills, learning strategies in pedagogy. So it has to be a collective group of well thought educators who are going to design and collaborate from 3 years to till 21 or 22 where they graduate. So you see, if we have that, that is why especially in Bangalore, it's become very popular to become autonomous colleges, where they feel whether Bangalore University, VTU is not having the new resources or study pedagogies. So autonomous, and they design their own curriculums. So when autonomous colleges are doing, why are we not giving that benefit to, all is my question. I keep thinking, I think what Vasanthi is and me, with a long tenure in education, this is what we aspire, I suppose, right?
Definitely.
That nobody should, and education is a right, and nobody should be denied equitable education, which NEP says that equitable.
I think, Azra, your point on rural children is very true, but unfortunately, or whatever, education comes in the concurrent list in the constitution.
Yes, in the state.
What happens, you cannot compel a national curriculum and force it down on the states until and unless they agree to go with the national curriculum. You see, they have to be convinced.
There has to be a change.
There has to be a change. There has to be a policy change, that there will be only one national curriculum, one national board, like the many countries abroad, the United States, they do so much because they have a common curriculum standard across the United States, the UK, all countries of Europe, Australia. Only here, because the constitution got designed that way in 1947 or 50, what are we going to do? We have to bring a change, and then the master change. But whatever it is, this is all wishful thinking. We have to be practical and like, in our own small ways. That's why I appreciate Sumati a lot for her efforts, because in our own small
I
ways,
give one,
irrespective of what's happening, Sumati, I think organizations like you must start pushing things, at least make the change. I think you're doing that along with so many other people I'm associated with. And I really commend your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vasanthi,
any more
for those
questions?
encouraging words. Yeah. Any teachers, do you have any other questions? You could probably ask, unmute yourself and ask both Dr. Azra and Dr. Vasanthi. Both are stalwarts, and I think you have, between both of them, you have close to about 60 years of experience. So please do use this opportunity. But thank you, Dr. Azra. It was a wonderful session. And it was, it gave us a good idea about what multidisciplinary and how transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary, what are the connections between all of this. It really helped us understand. And thank you so much. And teachers, participants, I have just posted one quiz here based on whatever Dr. Azra had shared with us today. Please attempt that quiz, and then you will also have access to this webinar recording from tomorrow morning. You will have that. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. And thank you, Dr. Vasanthi,